there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools I had to bring in.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so 2 or 3 things here, which I think are extraordinary. First of all, I want you to check out when he goes to look for the exit. So that's usually a good kind of indicator that somebody's ready to do a runner. They're ready to escape. They're looking for windows, doors, any way that they might be able to get out quick. This is happening unconsciously, by the way, I would say. He's not actually thinking in his head, oh yeah, where have I... The unconscious mind has taken over. It's fight or flight. He's right in it. How do we know it's fight or flight? We've got there something that I would call extreme venting. Venting is when you see somebody like trying to get air to their body. He's doing extreme venting, which means he's trying to lose heat from under here because fight and flight is kicking up the adrenaline. And now he's gone into a metabolism where he's doing something called fat cleaving, by the way. But when you start cleaving fats using adrenaline, there's a lot of heat produced from that. So extreme venting. One last thing about this, as well as we're talking about gesture planes, we've talked about the truth plane here and the passion plane here. Right up here is called the ecstatic plane. And when you start to suppress in the ecstatic plane, it means you're really trying to hold yourself down. You're trying to stop yourself exploding. Ecstatic from the Greek ecstasis, which means to be outside of yourself. It's literally you're trying to stop an out-of-body experience. Fight and flight has got you into such an out-of-body experience. You're trying to just hold it together. So venting and holding it together at the same time and unconsciously looking for the exits. I've never seen anything like this. It's pretty extraordinary. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so I have seen this. I've seen people, a little bit different situation, but when you get to that fat cleaving, it also leaves protein build up in the corners of your mouth. You start to see it. I've seen it in sear mostly because that's where the highest stress you'll ever see is. It's a stress laboratory. I call this the hostage plane in this case. He realizes, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm jumping on your plane. But this hostage plane, And even then, he's adapting at every turn. I would call this the oh moment for him. When he does something my dad would have said, you ain't too swoofed, are you, boy? He even calls out the fact he violated his own baseline by saying, I usually park on the street. Well, if I suddenly had parked up there and my wife disappeared that day, I might say, yeah, I pulled in there to drop this off. I wouldn't say I usually park on the street because now we got a baseline issue. There's a problem. Then he starts that adapter of sucking on the hair at his lower lip. He does that cell phone, which this, guys, this is the ultimate adapter. This is not just touching something, it's dopamine release, and this represents all the humans you know. This is partnering with everybody you know. This is the precious. So this guy's doing that and getting himself as much away from this problem as he possibly can, even to the point he takes one hand off and jacks around with his phone after all that. You don't get much worse than this in terms of, I made a mistake. And that, for me, is where it's at. Scott, what do you got?
Right. I think his limbic system at this point is lighting up. And I think it's not on fire yet, but it's going to be in the next one. You see, he's all lit up because what he's doing with his hands on his head, he's trying to get more. To me, what it looks like he's trying to get more oxygen. Plus, it's definitely an adapter at that point. When his hands are up there, he's walking around. He's not quite marching yet, but he's getting there. So the more he heats up, literally, the more he's trying to get rid of that heat, and the more he's trying to breathe better by having his hands on his head. That helps him a lot. His mouth is open for the same reason. And we'll see that as we go. When stress starts to hit him really hard, and that mouth gets open. And we'll see toward the end when he's talking to the cops near the dining room, that's when his mouth is all the way open. It just looks like there's something wrong with him because he's breathing heavily through his mouth. Now, if we'll notice when we go through this, the police questions, as they question him, they'll ask a question and then zip it. That's it. And this is, we talked about in the True Crime Workshop, is what they're trying to do is he's not sure if he's under threat, if he should feel threatened or not. If there is a threat, he knows it's a threat because he did this and they might catch him, but he doesn't understand yet whether or not they've caught on to what he's doing or they believe he's done it yet. It's just now hitting him. Maybe they don't believe me. So that's another reason for his limbic system to be on, getting close to on fire, because it's really firing up at that point. His movements are stressed. I mean, and they're really, really tight, and they're not smooth at all. When he starts moving around and pointing and stuff, his arm is just straight and he's doing all these weird movements. And then we'll talk about how he locks in on the TV and that little section of the TV in the next one. But Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Scott. That limbic system is firing off, which increases adrenaline. So we have adrenaline going up, which also right there with adrenaline is correlated a desire or need for oxygen. So the body says, okay, adrenaline's going up, I need more oxygen. You see his mouth hanging open to get more oxygen. Somebody who is feeling a little bit of this, you'll see nostril flaring behavior. And the nostrils flare out. The behavior nerds like us, this term is called wing dilation, if you ever want to look that up. But this is to oxygenate the blood going into the brain during times of stress. And we see this sometimes during deception, but this is extreme. This is the limbic system. And with Greg, what you said about him saying usually, that's like the classic illustration of ambiguity. Where like I say, Greg, what did you do after you left work Wednesday night? And Greg says, oh, I usually drive. Well, a lot of interrogators would take that at face value and just let that sit. But I think these cops in this video are doing exactly what they should be doing. And I think they're seeing a lot of it. One thing you're seeing here is him shrinking. So our bodies are targets for predators. And the more a limbic system activates with fear, it says you need to get your body smaller. The exception to this is the elbows out with the hands on the head, which shows submission or deference, according to all the research. And the way to tell whether this is someone who's confident and relaxed, because we also see somebody with their hands up there, is posture and chest. Posture straight? Nope. Is the chest poking out? No. So that's when we say this is submission and deference, most likely. And we see a lot of this, what I call exit checking, or searching for an exit. And he's almost into hyperventilation at this. And what we see is Greg's classic description of the chained elephant here. He doesn't know what to do. His body has all this adrenaline, and his body is saying, this needs to come out. I need to expend some of this. I need to burn it off.
Yeah, Chase, one thing I always notice is when people are doing, the hostage plane thing or whatever you want to call it, when you're doing confidence, your hands are here, not there typically. You do see it, but most of the time it's not there. So, yeah, I agree with you. These guys are brilliant.
Oh, yeah, they did great job. Great job. Gets really exciting here in a minute.
Usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.
Agila.